Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to episode 3 of the Mind Game. We are always fortunate to have Alice with us to share her insight and her expertise on interesting topics in performance, things that we can do to help our performance. Today, I will welcome her back again to the Mind Game on episode 3. Alice, welcome to episode 3.
Thank you. Thank you for having me once again.
Thank you for being here. Today, Alice is gonna tell us everything about attention and focus. Alice, the floor is yours. What would you tell us about attention and focus? What's the key difference between these two terms, and how does they affect performance?
Yeah. So when it comes to focus and concentration, I know, like I said before, an athlete, this isn't a new term that an athlete has never heard before. I mean, we're talking even from the smallest of the little kids who are developing athletes up into the most elite professional athletes. Focus has always been a primary concept when it comes to being able to perform. Why focus is so important and impactful in your overall ability to perform at your best is because an athlete needs to know how to lock in and how to focus and zoom in on the right things at the right time. And how this directly impacts your ability to be reactive when there are changes in your environment, to make a decision when it's important, when it's a game time, high pressure situation, and you have to use your decision making skills to be able to adapt to that, or whatever it might be in your sport that is forcing you to respond to your environment. When it comes to focus and concentration, a lot of the framework that I use to base my work off of is off of a concept from Nidifer's 4 attentional focus phases. This theory focuses on 2 different types of focus. So we're talking about width of your focus. So whether you are looking from a broad or a narrow type of focus lens. And it also looks at the direction of your focus. So is your focus pointed externally or is your focus pointed internally? And when is the most appropriate time to use these different types of focus? So quick breakdown. If you are talking about broad external focus, we are looking more at the external environment that an athlete might be in. So whether it be at the track, I'm taking in the surroundings of my track meet, my practice, my coaches, my teammates, everybody who's around me, taking in my environment.
Yeah.
When we look at broad internal focus, now we are placing ourselves in our environment. So not only am I taking in all of my surroundings, but now I'm strategizing where I fit into that mix. So whether it be planning out, mapping out, okay, I'm going to start my warm up on this side of the track, or I'm going to meet my teammates over here, wherever it might be. Okay, moving forward, we have a narrow external focus. So we are zoning in on maybe one particular aspect of my strategy to warm up, or I'm zoning in still on the external factors of my environment, but I'm narrowing in a little bit. So I'm taking in what strategies I need to put into place in order to execute a really good warm-up or whatever I mean. And the last phase of those attentional focus types is going to be a narrow internal focus, which focuses more on the feeling and the mind-body connection that we have when we are engaging with our environment. Why this is important, and I know that was so long-winded, but if an athlete can appropriately direct their focus into the right way, they can ultimately gain the edge on really knowing where their focus is going to be the most valuable.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a little crash course on what I base a lot of my work when it comes to an athlete's struggling with distractions or struggling to stay locked in, and how it may have effect.
So let's take it to the context of like outside of sports, or like performance, work, lifestyle. How would someone be able to? What are some strategies that anyone who is not doing sport, how would they be able to improve the attention or focus at a workplace or whatever tasks that they are doing? What are some strategies that those people be able to use to improve their attention and focus?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, concentration is something that's relevant no matter what field or performance domain that you're involved in. So when it comes to, in particular, how you can implement knowing these different attentional types into your daily life is one, starting with the foundation of self-awareness. I think knowing these different attentional focus types are great, but they can't really be used if I don't recognize when I'm within each type.
Yeah.
So if we were to break that down, being able to recognize, when I'm in the present moment, and maybe I am struggling with being able to complete a task at work. Maybe I am struggling with being able to get a drill down right. It can go, whatever your performance domain is, recognizing maybe where my brain is at, right? A lot of the time I'll tell my athletes, be where your feet are, and handle the moment that's in front of you. And being able to do that takes the self-awareness to recognize, okay, well, what is it that's in front of me?
Yeah.
And once I can recognize what the goal is, I can then implement what the appropriate attentional focus style is.
That is awesome. Earlier on, you mentioned about planning your warm up, where you're going to warm up and all that. Would you say visualization also plays a role in attention and focus?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, visualization is something that is such a valuable tool when it comes to just being able to get that mental rehearsal that builds confidence. And when it comes to being able to work through some of these different skills, such as attention and concentration, visualization is something that can absolutely aid in the regulation of maybe more high pressure or high performance type of situations. And again, it goes back to being aware of what your triggers are when it comes to moments that may dysregulate you more than others, but being able to visualize what it is, where I'm going to be directing my attention in the appropriate manners, so that when it comes down to it, I've already done this before. This isn't new. This is just another rep. And that familiarity a lot of times will help being able to execute in the way that you want to.
But that is awesome. I think the first episode, which you talked about stress management.
Yeah.
What effect does stress have on attention and focus? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, they're so positively correlated. It's not even funny. When you are in a stress state or you're in an overload state, it is a lot harder to be adaptable to change, to be present in your environment and be within those external focus zones, because everything feels personal. So when it comes to being able to regulate, finding those tools that do kind of help you stay present and stay mindful, and when we're taking in more of an external focused zone where I'm taking in my environment, a lot of those tools are what we use when we are working in mindfulness training. So when it is stress management, and I said before, be where your feet are, recognize where I'm at in space, and using that tool to help ground you so you can direct your focus appropriately and in smaller chunks, so it's not such an overload of information that my brain's trying to process.
That is awesome. So for any young athlete out there, or anyone who is hearing about this topic for the first time, what are some strategies or what are some ways that the person can get started on helping improve their attention and focus? Are there some strategies or some methods that the person can start gradually to help improve their attention and focus?
Yeah, absolutely. One, I always resort back to goal setting. A lot of times these concepts are a lot easier to plan ahead when I can think in hindsight and be able to recognize where some of my struggles are, some of my biggest challenges are, to remain focused, what those triggers to those feelings or those expressions are, and then being able to plan accordingly so I'm not kind of in a sink or swim position when it comes to actually implementing the skills. So if I can appropriately set the goal as to what it is that I'm trying to achieve, I can then make the plan to be able to achieve it. So that's something that can be done when it comes to focus and concentration, as far as being able to, talk about skill execution and nailing down new skills that you're trying to learn. So breaking it down into the smallest chunks possible until you're at a place where that skill has been developed and you don't have to take it down that small.
So that is really awesome. Thank you so much for your time. For anyone watching, we don't want Alyssa to spill all the facts here. If you want to reach out to her, you see her Instagram is tagged in the comments. You can just